Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is.
Pat O.
And also,
Aaron, hello, hi.
I thought you were going to be that guy, some boy.
I am just a boy. Yes, they. That is what I am. Sorry.
Aaron is, if you guys don't know, Aaron is one half of the Hey Strangeness podcast, which is, I have to admit, one of my new favorite shows.
Aw,
I really like it. I think that the humor, I think that if a lot of people like the humor over here, they're really going to like the humor over there. However, I met Aaron because of that great thing that Pat and I are always talking about, that clubhouse situation.
Clubhouse,
And
yes.
it's been great and bringing a lot of people together. Aaron is very humble. He insists that he's not as great as some of us are, but he's just as good. And we got to meet each other physically at
We
Cryptids.
did.
I touched you, so
We
that
did.
was not
We
not
were
that
within
way.
physical space. It was awesome. It was one of the best days.
So we got really drunk. It was great.
We
Um,
did.
so it was good times.
Yes.
But anyway, so how are you? How are you, Aaron? How was your weekend? I'll ask you
I'm.
first.
Oh, thank you. I'm fantastic. My weekend was good. I did. I made another trek down to San Antonio from Austin, which I do more often than I'd care to admit. But it was a good. It was a good trip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, kind of just took it easy. Other than that, thanks for asking. It was a good weekend.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, Pat. Pat, how was your weekend?
Mine was uneventful too, actually. He kind of stole my spiel. Um, yeah, I guess the one thing I'll talk about is somebody on Twitter, and I wish I had screen grabbed who it was, but somebody had one of the weirdos that I follow, was reading this book called Judgment of the Nephilim by Ryan Pitterson. And I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And just kind of on a whim, ordered it on Amazon.
Oh,
And
okay.
say what you will about Amazon, the shit was here in 2 days. So I've been reading that this weekend, and it's very interesting because I know that like in this field where very few things are taboo, I love the fact that that's the topic of the Nephilim is so taboo.
It is
Um,
very taboo. Yeah.
so of course I have
Yeah.
to immerse myself in it, and it's good. It kind of it comes from the viewpoint that the Nephilim were tools of Satan to try to enact revenge on God for banishing him from the garden. And I guess and it uses a lot of biblical scripture, like in how it makes its point and kind of like constructs its narrative.
Sure.
And it says that when Eve ate from the tree and God found out and was pissed about it, he banished Satan and everybody out of the garden. And something that he said to Satan at the time was that one of mankind's you will be at perpetual war with mankind, and his descendants will strike out at you, and you will ultimately be vanquished by one of them, kind of referring to the coming of Jesus. So that
Hmm.
so Satan then convincing the angels to rebel and fall to earth and then pollute mankind's bloodline was Satan waging war against God by trying to taint the DNA of mankind. And that was why the great flood happened, was trying to purify mankind's bloodline once again. And when they talk about Noah being perfect, it wasn't that he was a guy without sin or flaw. It was just that he had the right genealogy, and that's why he was allowed to live. And that's about as far as I got in the book.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's wacky shit, but um,
That's
you
that,
know,
that is, it is interesting, but it kind of gives me like Hitler vibes.
yeah. Anytime people talk about like eugenics.
Yeah.
And like pure. Well, Aaron, you know what we're talking about, being from Texas and everything.
Yeah.
What, are
It's
we
just
doing dab at Texas?
so now, are you? I meant to ask, were you like actually involved with physically building the wall, or was just like your neighbors?
You
Was
know,
it,
it's
were you out there with sandbags and shit on
the
lanterns?
wall. I don't know. You hear about it. I think it's more a state of mind than it is a physical structure.
Fair enough.
A mental wall.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't mean to comment on local politics, but it's dumb.
It is dumb, yeah. It is dumb. And
my mom.
most illegal immigrants come here via plane. Most of them come here via plane, and you can fly over a wall on an airplane. I don't know if people knew. But,
well, and the border is long. It's very, very long. And if you're going to build one wall that stretches, it's just not feasible. Like logistically, it's not feasible. You know, it's not going to work.
My mom sold Mary Kay as a side job growing up, and we spent many vacations down to whatever fucking jamborees they have in Dallas. And
Dallas.
I love Texas. My best friend lived there for a while. He actually graduated from high school there, so he had to do Texas history. And you know, I love Deep Ellum. I love the old 97s and stuff. So if I bust your balls about being from Texas, please don't.
Oh no, I don't take it. I don't take it bad at all. I'm not actually from Texas. I'm from Central Florida, but I've been here for about 14 years.
Dude, I'd stick with Texas,
which is even worse.
I mean, at least then people think you're a cowboy instead of like a gator wrestler.
Yeah, I was gonna say all the Florida cliches, like all the Florida cliches, they're all true. Like it's all true. It's all real. Stay away from that place. That's why many of us go to Texas.
I mean, yeah, listen, Aaron's the guy that drove, 20 hours just to get away from all of it for a weekend. So
all of it. And it was worth every mile. Let me tell you, every mile.
good old Appalachians. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my weekend, was just reading that book a lot. And that was kind of it. The one thing, two things I want to pimp though, and you had mentioned Clubhouse earlier, is
Sure.
September 2nd. I'm going to be on the Cryptocaster Clubhouse thing talking about werewolves in pop culture, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And actually, believe it or not, I got a message from my buddy Derek, who's the director on Torture the Flesh, and he goes, "Hey man, I need you to do me a favor. September 4th, they want some of us to be on this thing called Clubhouse. Do you know what it is? Can you download it for your phone?" I was like, "I'm fucking familiar." So September 4th, there's some. We're doing. I don't know who he's getting interviewed by. I don't even know if he told me. He was just like, "Let me know if you can figure out the app because I need people to go on this with me." But yeah, that Saturday night I'm doing something else for Torture the Flesh. So check that out too. I'll pimp that on Twitter, but that'll be even more interesting because it'll be a bunch of people that don't know how to use their cell phones.
Well, we were all there at one point. Clubhouse is pretty user friendly. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
You'd think they sponsor us. They don't. But you can if you want to, Clubhouse. But
why don't they? You should look into that.
That's a really good question because I'm pretty sure that we pimp them out more than anybody, and they definitely should. But no, that's really neat. So if another reason to join Clubhouse, it's not just the cryptozoology stuff. If that's what you're into. Aaron, you've got your Hey Strangeness Club over on Clubhouse, which is all things, weird.
Yeah.
And, I think people would really there's something for everybody on there. I was in a room the other night about how to make money off of podcasts, just listening. And I don't know, it seems like every time I'm on there, people want to hear what I have to say. The one time I got on there, I think I've talked about it on this show before. I was in a room talking about how to make pizza from like this world-renowned chef, and they invited me up to come talk, and it was so freaking wholesome because all of the cryptozoology people like came to listen to me talk about pizza.
I missed that one.
That's
it was cool.
Just a random, because it tells you when somebody that you follow is talking in rooms or whatever, and and it was just I don't know. I was like, oh, what's this room about? Talking about how to make pizza, and I joined, and they invited me to come talk, and I'm like, I don't know anything about making pizza, but sure. But no,
it's a cool platform. Yeah, there's a little bit of everything on there.
It really is, and I see the other social media sites trying to emulate what they've already done. I don't use those. I mean, honestly, I've got a bigger Twitter following than anything, and I'm pretty sure I have more followers on Twitter than I do on Facebook. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't use theirs. They have like Twitter has spaces. I don't use theirs. I don't
I think you need to have a certain amount of followers and stuff before you can do it though on Twitter.
Well, it tells me all the time that, oh, join their space, and then like I've got the little thing at the top that like wants me, and I just never do it. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
I should do it. I don't know. And then tell everybody there to come to Clubhouse because so anyway, well, all right, everybody have boring weekends. That's okay. I had a very, I mean, I also had a pretty boring weekend, so I didn't do that. I mean, I did stuff, but nothing. I guess nothing of note. But I'm still I've started this big people job and I'm still adjusting to that life for now. My training is strenuous, so I spend most of my time doing that. And then, of course, school just started, so that's been wonderful. It's been an absolute shit show. We had a COVID scare. My kid got sick. Her school
Oh my
has
God.
she got sick. The school has no mandates or anything in place at all for these kids. No masking or social distance, anything. I mean, they're just acting like COVID never existed. Well, she got sick, and but her and I both got tested. We're both negative, so most of my weekend was spent just at home because we didn't know yet. So, but we're negative, and that's okay. So here I am. I'm still here. I know that everybody's disappointed, but that's
What, that you don't have COVID?
yeah, that I don't have COVID.
No.
Glad you're all right. No,
not yet, not yet. So that's good. But so that was, I mean, like I said, pretty uneventful myself. But I did do I was talking about on our last week's show. I was on Paranormal Roundtable talking about the Mothman. Part one episode. It's a 2-part episode. So part one came out Friday night, and my God, people are fucking vicious sometimes. Let me tell you, some of those people just hate my guts. They just can't stand me. And it's really it's just because I practice witchcraft. Like, let me tell you.
Why is that a problem?
There's nobody more hateful in this world than Bible thumping Christians. I'll say that.
That is very true.
That
is very true.
It's wild. And so, I'll say when I started practicing, I was between the ages of like 12 and 13. And the woman that taught me everything that I know was a Christian woman. And then, I've gone on to kind of network and meet other people. And, I had met somebody else who was a hoodoo priestess, I guess is what they're called. And, she had always, told me that the Book of Psalms is a spell book. And, and so it's just wild to me. And there were so many people that, were like, I can't listen to her. She's a terrible guest because she practices witchcraft. And of course I shared my Mothman encounter. And, a part of that story is that, before I saw the guy, we ate some edibles. So, I was terrible. But, scientifically, marijuana does not make you hallucinate.
No, it does not. And I think I heard Kenzie Gleason say once in a Clubhouse room, like, just because I was a little high when I saw something doesn't mean I didn't see it. So I'm with you on that.
Absolutely. And so, these people, so on top of me being a witch, they didn't like my Mothman story because I was doing the devil's lettuce or whatever. And I'm just like, wow. I mean, I'll say for the most part, it was received well, but there's some people that just wake up and they just choose to be nasty people. And I'm
That's so funny. Just because I was a little high when I saw something doesn't mean I didn't see it. Just like every episode of fucking Rick and Morty that I've watched, right?
I hope it's okay that I just name drop somebody, but I'm pretty sure she was the one that said something.
No, that's fine. She's been on the show. So I don't think she's gonna mind.
That son of a bitch.
Right? She'll be like, no, hey, that's me. She'll be excited.
Keep my name out your mouth.
But no, I mean, so it was just really surprising. And I mean, the crazy thing about it was that, I actually had said a type of neutral stance. And what I had said during the episode was that whatever you want to call these things, whether you want to call them aliens or extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, interdimensional, whether you want to call them gods or spirits or whatever, I believe, and I do believe, that most of these things are the same thing. And the host of the show, who these are his fans that hate my guts, started cracking on the Christians, going, it's demons, everything's demons, it's all demons. I mean, he's cracking on them, and then they hate me, and I'm like, what? Hold on a second. So that just goes to show that these type of people, their credibility, falls flat because they're too stupid to even realize that the person that they are fanning over hates them. You know, it's okay. Pick your battles. That's what I say. So,
Yeah.
it can be tough, especially when you have these fringe ideas and you're already like, it's not just that you're criticized from like, normal people that already think you're fucking weird, but then you're criticized within the community as well. And it's just sad. I mean, it's really sad.
Which doesn't make any sense to me because, like, aren't we already into stuff that kind of puts us in a minority?
Right.
Interest wise,
like we need it from every side, and that's I guess. But that's all I really had to say about it. Episode 2 hasn't come out yet. Some of those people said that they weren't going to listen, but I promise I'll probably see their comments next
they
week.
will.
They will. And I don't really care because for the most part, I have my own show that a decent amount of people listen to. So hey, I'm doing all right. But I just wanted to mention that and just reiterate how sometimes people are mean, but fuck them. So
yeah, fuck them,
fuck them. So that was it. That was my soapbox for the time being. Let's you want to talk about some news? Want to hear about what's going on in the news this week?
I would love to.
It's pretty cool
sure.
stuff. So Nessie is actually fast tracking her way to record-breaking sightings for the year of 2021. We are up to 11 sightings so far this year. We just had 2 sightings back-to-back in early August. And the record for the number of sightings that Nessie's been seen in Loch Ness is 18 back in 2019. And these are modern-day sightings, so that would be the record. But if we're already at 11, I mean, that's really good news.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Well, because a couple years ago, they were saying that Nessie was dead because there wasn't any sightings. So I think that's really interesting. There's a website, and I'll link it down below, where you can actually watch a webcam live all the time of the loch. Some of the sightings do come from it.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't know that was out there.
That's very cool.
Yeah. It's a live feed. It's above the water, so it's not under the water. So most of these sightings are just little black dots, but who knows? Maybe it's a Nessie. So I thought that was interesting. 2020 saw 13 sightings of Nessie. So there's that. What do you guys think of that? What do you think of Nessie sightings?
I've never had one.
Me neither.
Okay, fair enough.
I was kind of a proponent of the Nessie is dead idea for a while, just because, we had kind of gone a while without any. And then I read Nessie by Nick Redfern, and now I have all kinds of questions. I don't even know.
Well, fair enough. No, I of course, Nessie's one of my favorite. I really like the aquatic cryptids. They're top notch for me, and so I want there to be a Nessie. I want there to be a plesiosaur out there somewhere. Like that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Is there? Probably not, but I hope that there is, and I hope that this is it, and I hope she's still out there, swimming. I mean, it wouldn't account for why she disappeared for so long and then made a comeback. But
there's the theory that there are like underwater caves deep in the loch, and that maybe she goes into these caves and goes to other bodies of water and then comes back. I've heard that one a couple times. And
the loch does eventually lead out to the ocean. You can get to the ocean from the loch, so she can come in and out. So I mean, they could be migratory, and that's what happens. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see as the year goes on. If we end up breaking those record sightings. Same thing kind of is going on with Canada, which a couple of people kind of wondered in the beginning of the pandemic. Canada, come to find out, they're having about 3 UFO sightings a day over in Canada.
Wow.
From different areas. Yeah. And it's way more than, we're seeing anywhere else, or at least reported, you know what I mean? So, they're having a lot of it going on, and then they had record numbers in 2020 compared to, and I think like their UFO sightings were up by like 40 something %, a crazy amount. And, people were wondering that with people not really being distracted too much, when you don't really have anything but time on your hands to sit outside and watch the sky, were we going to see more UFO sightings? And the answer to that so far has been yes. Yes, we have. So I don't, who knows what that means for everything. But here's the fun piece of news. And it also involves aliens. So on Clubhouse is trying to talk to me. Um, so on August 17th, a woman going by Anjali, aka her name's actually Angelia Schultz. Angelia, I guess, yeah. Angelia Schultz. She went to the Lincoln Memorial and sat outside and held a press conference saying that she's retired defense intelligence officer for U.S. military. She said that there's a base in a mountain in the Mojave Desert, that she has personally spoken to at least two separate species of alien telepathically, and that she intends on taking a limited number of reporters, scientists, and at least one astronaut to this base before the end of the year.
When was this press
was
conference?
This was August 17th. This happened, and again, I'll have the press conference video. I'll have it linked in the description so you guys can watch that.
Oh wow!
But yeah, those are the claims that she's making. There are a lot of claims. Now, I will note first and foremost, she's younger. She's a younger lady. But she's wheelchair bound, and I don't know if that has anything to do with maybe why she's retired. It could. But very interesting. It's kind of hard to find information about her anywhere. I read that there was another name. There was a previous name found for her, which was Angelia. I think it was Jones, instead of Schultz. But Anjali, she says, is what the beings call her that. So that's what she's chosen to go by. Now, could she just be some crazy lady who decided to stage this press conference in front of the Lincoln Memorial? Sure. But I mean, with disclosure and kind of the state of things and what's going on right now, I don't want to write anything off. I don't want to put anything, off on the table. And we've talked about the Arizona base, right? The Dulce or whatever, is that Dulce or Dulce or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that one just a little bit. I think Pat knows more about it than I do, but
that's the one with the underground. It was an underground base, and there was like a fight with some Marines or something.
It's in a mesa, but it's in the earth. It's not necessarily underground because it's above ground, but yeah, I don't know. She sounds like a crazy person. I think. Sorry, I think when why are they going to come to some rando? Why would they show up and use this random person as the emissary that's gonna fucking blow the lid off all of this finally? I mean, I guess
we'll not. According to her, this is all through the government.
Right, but I mean, come on. Like, I don't know. We'll see. If I'm wrong, I'll be wrong. I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. I don't think I am, though. I mean, I guess we'll find out.
Fair enough. I mean, sure, there's been plenty of people that have come forward. Actually defense intelligence officers have come forward claiming, making these big claims. So of course it's possible that,
if you ask me like what I think it's more likely, this could just be a random crazy person. This could be somebody that is facilitating this communication with aliens, or she could be a fucking psyop person that's trying to discredit the movement. And that's why you're right. Sometimes you do see naval intelligent people say some really off the wall shit. And should they be believed because they were in the military, or does that, what I mean? That just because they have that military connection doesn't mean that what they're saying is true. Now it also means that maybe they're not lying, although there's a lot of crazy people that have been in the military. I mean, like, it could still go either way. Like, I don't feel like that solidifies her into one tract. You know what I mean? I think it still could kind of go either, she's crazy, or she's fucking with us, or she's telling the truth, right? I mean, that's what you always say, Asher. I'm going to steal your line from you.
That's okay. No, that's fine.
There's three types of people. There's the people that are really having these experiences and are telling the truth. There's the people that are knowingly lying to you for whatever reason, be it attention or some other nefarious purpose, or they're people that are just crazy and they don't know what the fuck they're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that she's got a military background, I feel like doesn't nail her into one of those more than the other. I'd
agree with that. Definitely. We we don't know, if it's something or if it's not. I mean, she's saying that she's gonna take this group of people to this base, before the end of the year, and it's already August, so.
So she got about 4 months. Let's see.
Right.
Right.
Let's go.
Let's see what she puts out there. But either way, I'll put the press conference in the description as well. You can go check that out. It's a little under an hour and a half long. I did not watch all of it yet. I had just found out about it today, actually. So I'm a little late to the party, but I did watch some. I mean, she seemed of sound mind in the beginning. I don't know if, that continued or not. But we'll see. I mean, she had other people there. She had like some bodyguard or something there. I mean, it looked, official-ish, but I'll say this, like, she wasn't standing right at the Lincoln Memorial Monument.
Of course not. She was in a wheelchair, dude. That's cold. How can you say that?
Fair enough.
Fucking.
Oh, no.
Too soon?
You have the cripples after me now.
You're doing it too, like cripples? Did you just say? Did you refer to Americans with disabilities as motherfucking cripples?
I'm an American with disabilities. I'm allowed. It's all right. I'm bringing it back. No, I'm just.
Jesus. Hey, my mom's got handicap plates. I'm an ally.
That's, right. It's fine.
I park in those spots all the time with her.
You're just doing your due diligence.
Right.
So, but use it or you lose it. That's what they say. No, but really, no, no, she was like kind of further away from the monument. It was like in the background. So so they didn't like close down the Lincoln Memorial Monument or anything for her to have this little impromptu press conference, and it's just on YouTube. So I don't know if it aired anywhere else. She could just be a crazy lady. But again, considering the state of things, I definitely don't want to write anything off. I'm not going to say that that's the first time I've heard claims of similar, beings or, and what have you. So that's, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But
what is the okay, here we go. What is the craziest thing that you've ever, and I don't mean that in a negative way.
Just like wild.
Yeah. What is the wildest story that somebody has ever told you? Like face to face, like you met this person, you're talking to them. Either it's someone you met at a party or it's someone that wanted to talk to you because of what we do. You know what I mean? But what is the wildest story that you've ever had related to you firsthand?
That's a really related to what I do for a living, because I've heard some wild stuff. I don't know. I guess I haven't really had a lot. I think one of my good friends told me about this weird bug that they had seen one time. And I mean, it sounds wild, but this bug, I mean, it was probably about praying mantis sized. But it had a front that was like a spider, and then a back that was like a centipede, and it was bright green. And
that's horrifying.
Yeah, and it's just not anything that I've been able to personally identify, or they've been able to personally identify. And I don't know if it's just because like bugs really freak me out or like what the deal was, but I mean, it killed it, and that was, kind of the end of it. But as far as like wild claims, I don't know. I don't think that any of them seem that out there. And then also because I started doing this and then a pandemic hit, I haven't really gotten to be physically face to face with a lot of people yet, pertaining to what I do.
I mean, I would say someone that you talk to over the phone. I just mean someone that where like they related it to you personally. And not, like I read it in a book or some shit.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Well, you already know the answer to this one. But in case people don't know, it was the guy with the really big alien penis or whatever. That's definitely the weirdest, the most bizarre shit I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, he was talking about he was going to other planets and stuff, having conferences with alien Bigfoot. And
so, Aaron, I had been doing this show for maybe like a month or two, and Ashers came to me and said, "Hey, I have someone that I want us to interview. It's this person that found me on Facebook, and we have like a mutual friend or two." So they weren't like completely random. Well, at the
one
time,
mutual friend, and it was somebody that I knew in real life.
Yeah, sure.
And this guy claims that he's been in contact with aliens and that he's an abductee. And did he say he was a hybrid too, or no?
So yeah, basically, yeah, he's a hybrid, but that's because every couple of years he gets abducted and they upgrade his DNA. So he's the mixture of like
Oh,
6 different alien DNAs. But it's like, okay,
good.
this isn't why I met the guy. The reason why I
No.
met the guy is because he messaged me. He saw that I was a filmmaker on my Facebook page, and he messaged me, and he wanted to know about how he could make money because he had something really special that nobody else had, and that was the largest penis on the planet. And of
What the
course,
fuck?
I get a lot
Yes.
of weird
No,
people.
this is 100% real.
No,
This
listen,
is
I get a
100%
lot of
real.
weird people in my inbox. I get a lot of weird dudes. And even like I'm talking to Pat about it.
They
I'm
have
like,
the world's biggest dick, I'm sure.
right. So I'm like, okay, this guy just wants me to ask him to send me pictures. Like that's what it is. He wants me to be like, hey, let me see it. You know, he wants to
This
be
is a
weird.
setup of some kind.
But then
Yeah.
like he does send me pictures, and I shit you not, it's real. The guy's got the largest penis in the world. He sends me pictures. He sends me videos. He's doing stuff with it. It's strange, and I'm just. He's like, how can I market this? So I start talking to Pat because Pat knows more about film than I do, and Pat's like, fuck yeah, let's record this guy. But then I'm like talking to the guy, and I'm like, well, why aren't you in like the Guinness Book of World Records or whatever? You know, because you're nowhere to be found, and you definitely do have the largest penis in the world. Like compared to like what we have on record now, yeah, it's like 2 times bigger than that thing.
Sure.
He's like, well, because I did that. And when I did that, the CIA started hacking my phone, and then the government started watching me. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. He was like, well, you know, I'm also like an alien. And I'm like, wait, what?
Oh, is that all? Okay.
And then that's when it gets into the alien talk. So we have him come on the show and you know, talk about a story. And this was like a month of just Pat and I together kind of vetting this guy and talking to him. And I mean, he seemed crazy, but then he would say things that kind of coincided with some of the other reports that I'd gotten from other people. So I'm like, you know, I'll entertain. If there's a 1% possibility that it exists, I will entertain the idea. I'm not here to tell people that their experiences are wrong. That's not my
Sure.
job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
We
know.
don't know.
Exactly. So we have the guy on the show, and you know, it was okay. Yeah, I mean, he told some really wild out there stories that I don't believe. But then like a week after the show's been out, he freaks out and like starts threatening us, and it was crazy. So we took the show down. I have it. I might, when I eventually come out with the Patreon, I might put it out there.
I was gonna ask where can I hear this, but okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what we should do? We should have someone do like flash animation to it. You know how
Oh
they
my
do that
gosh.
sometimes with podcasts for like the
Yeah.
dude.
It would be pretty wild.
That would be the fucking move. And I don't know who we'd get to do it. It would probably be cost prohibitive because we'd have to pay the animator. But like, hey, if you're listening to this and you know someone that knows anything about animation, how long is that interview? You think it's like 2 hours or something, or not even?
I don't even think it's that long. Yeah, I mean, because we did like
We could probably chop it up into like 5-minute segments or something, just the best of. But
Yeah.
I would love to see that animated. It'd be so fucking hysterical.
Well, I mean, this guy is why we don't just have a lot of guests on the show all the time, and we're very picky about who we have on. It was the first guest we ever had on.
It was the ultimate cautionary tale. Like,
Yes.
you know,
Maybe we should think about this.
yeah, every time like we get someone that's a little woo woo with it, like I'm like, oh, we'll just have him on. It'll be fun. And she'll be like, no, Pat, remember?
Oh yeah, like
World's
absolutely
largest
not.
dick guy. Oh fuck, that's right.
Remember the
Yeah.
dick guy.
Yeah,
And this is, you know, probably
Schizophrenics have a
so when
tendency to turn on
when
you.
people ask me every time, you know, I'll get that question a lot when I do other shows, like, you know, what's the craziest thing you've heard?
Oh.
It's always that guy, and
Oh,
because
no.
at the end of the day, he does. I can tell you this right now with 100% certainty. I can't show you the pictures because I believe in consent. And I know that sucks, and people hate to hear that, but this man had the largest penis on this entire planet. I can promise you that. He's nuts. I mean, he's fucking out there. He's crazy, but he's got the largest penis on the planet. So I don't know. Hope you're doing good, guy. You know, we talk about you enough, but you probably don't listen to the show. Who knows? He might. But that's probably the craziest. That's probably the craziest story I've ever heard. I mean, so far, you know, and I've only been doing this for 2 years now, so we'll see if you can top that. Good luck. But anyway, that guy aside, I'm sure other people I'm sure are familiar, but I don't think the newer people are. But again, I might release the episode one day on like Patreon or something like that. We did take it down because of multiple reasons. The guy was obviously unhinged. making threats and whatnot. He did live relatively close to me. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about meeting him, not alone, but because he was saying that he had contact with these aliens, and I'm like, well, shouldn't I go call him out on it? Okay, let's go.
She wanted to touch the world's biggest dick. I don't know what the fuck you're talking
Of course.
You're going to take a picture with it wrapped around your neck.
Probably, yeah, at minimum.
Like Britney Spears with the python.
What is this guy doing? Oh, I mean, yeah, because you could definitely do that with this thing. It was huge. I'm telling you.
And I will say this too. She has never, and of course I was like, show me the pictures. She's like, no, I can't do that. And obviously he didn't say that I could see him. So I have not seen these pictures, but I trust Asher's, and I trust the fact that she was respecting his privacy, and he didn't.
Oh yeah, I can't.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, if she says that, that's journalistic integrity right there, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen it, so I don't know. I mean, for all I know, this guy could have the second biggest one in the world. I mean,
let me tell you. Hold on. Let me tell you. The guy he took a picture, okay, and he's laying down, all right, and it's laying across his whole body, and it goes all the way up to the bridge of his nose.
He sucks at the thing.
Well, he can't, because the thing is as wide as his face. It's huge.
Oh, wow.
You can't do anything with it. And we even got into conversations about that, because I want to know how it worked logistically. And he's telling me about he's really depressed because he can't really go anywhere.
Yeah, how do you function in that situation?
He can't, right? And so I was really, obviously I was really interested in all that stuff. He's like, I can't, he's like, I prefer going out in the wintertime because I can tie it up and tie it to my shoulder and then wear a coat and nobody can see it, but you can see it through my pants. There's no way, you can see it. He's never really had sex. But then weird things happen. He claimed that he had a daughter, and it's well, if you never really had sex, which I believe you couldn't. I suppose that doesn't mean you can't conceive. But
what I want to know is and once again, someone who's got a background in photography but has not seen this, is that if something is that big and he's sitting there in his trailer taking selfies of it and shit, there's no way he's getting full body shots. And there's no way he's getting full body shots with that much clarity, picture clarity, to where you can see that it's not fake.
No,
you know what I mean?
It definitely. There were, because that's the thing, is that that's what he was doing when he had contacted me, was that he was doing shows with his penis. Because again, he used his penis and did things with it. He did all kinds of things. He could do push-ups with it, and he could lift things with it.
What?
And he could do, with this huge, because it's it's about the size of the man's leg for real, and
okay.
It's huge. And so he would have people come, and he would host these shows and events and things like that. So some of the pictures and videos are from those events where people are taking pictures, and then it's not people don't know within his friend group that he's got this really huge dick. So it's other people taking pictures of it. He's explaining to me kind of how his sex his sex life worked, and it was very much instead of what titty fucking is, we couldn't do that, but it was it would be like thigh fucking. He would do that, put him in between girls' thighs, and so because he can't penetrate anybody, he'll kill them, so
Dude,
it was just,
that's when you become a supervillain. Well, no, I don't want to say that because that would be rape. But
well, that's true. Well, and that's what. Yeah. So that's what me and Pat were talking about doing. Was I'm sure there's some people out there on the internet that I've seen do some really impressive things with their body. Surely we could find somebody that would film porn with this guy, and we were going to make tons of money. But it never got that far. We had him on the show to talk about the alien stuff. We wanted to talk about the dick stuff, but he didn't want to really talk about it. It was weird. It was just weird. Anyway, we spent way too much time talking about this guy.
Well, hopefully he's doing okay out there.
I hope he's well. Yes, I hope he's probably on Mars or something. That's what he told us last time. So, that's, who knows. But anyway, that's not what people are here for. You guys don't want to hear about dick. You want to hear about West Virginian cryptids. That's what. So.
Anyway,
and if you want to both, we got the first one out of the way, and now we can move on to the West Virginia cryptids.
So. We can speculate about their dicks and what they look like if you guys want, but that's up for debate here. So I'll just read the room and see how it goes. So anyway, Aaron, was this your first? You came down. You came for Crypto Bash, right? You came to Morgantown, West
Yes.
Virginia.
Yes.
Was this your first time visiting West Virginia?
It was, yeah. It was the first time I'd ever been to that part of the country, and I loved it. My wife and I loved it. Beautiful,
Oh, good. So
beautiful up there.
you did enjoy it.
Very much. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
good, good. Yeah, I happen to really like it. Also, I mean, I live right across the street from it, basically. But I really like West Virginia. I mean, we kind of rag on it a lot because there's a lot of nothing, but it's beautiful because of that. There's mountains, you got the mountains. It's
Hmm.
beautiful. And, we kind of joke. Did you make it down to Flatwoods? Did you go with the group down there?
No, we didn't. We
Yeah.
stayed up until 3 something a.m. that morning.
Yeah, I was there. I know.
You were there.
We lost you at
Yeah.
some point. I don't know. You disappeared. I think you went to
I
bed.
I thought we had told everybody good night, but then the next morning someone was like, "Yeah, people were looking for you." And I was like, I don't even really remember leaving.
I,
So,
I
I
was
don't know.
I was outside talking. I was outside talking to Kinsey and Tyler Strand, and Tyler had come out and he's like, "Wait, where's Aaron?" And we're like, "What are you talking about? He was in the room." He's like, "No, he said he was coming down here. He left the room a minute ago." We're like,
Oh, did I say that?
I
Wow.
guess." And then he
Wow.
disappeared. But anyway, but other than that, but you did go to Point Pleasant, right? You did visit
Yes.
there. And
Yes.
how was your experience in Mothman Country?
It was honestly so cathartic and
Mhm.
peaceful. We didn't get there till 2 a.m. So everything's closed. There's
That's
no one on
really
the
cool.
street. Yeah, it was really neat. There was one guy riding a bicycle with no shoes on, smoking a cigarette up and down.
That's West Virginia.
He seemed to be having a great time. Yeah, he didn't bother us. We didn't bother him. But no, I've wanted to go there for 20 years or so. Like it was really cool. It was a very cathartic
Well, because you've mentioned that
moment.
before. The Mothman was kind of your introduction into this world of the weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I became interested in it just as like I was on the internet one day, when I was, I guess, 13, 12, 13, something like that. And then a short time later, they started doing press releases for the Richard Gere movie. So
Sure.
it was weird. Like I got into it and all of a sudden it was in the mainstream. So yeah, yeah, that's kind of my first weird case, I guess.
Wow. Yes, and you got to go there. It is I'll say the people are questionable, but they're very nice.
They were
They
all
are. They're
asleep. I don't know, except the bicycle guy.
fair enough. Now, we've never really run into issues. I mean, we've talked about, and I've kind of talked about before how the town feels about the documentary, and there's a lot of people that aren't too happy about it. I do have one guy who will send me a message every so many months and yell at me about how I'm not a scientist and that they all know that it's just a hoax and I need to just leave it alone. It's really weird. Really threatening. But he doesn't live there anymore. But every time I actually go there, I haven't had any issues. I met a gentleman who wrote a book on the history of West Virginia, just, history in general. And he's been very helpful. He gave me all these maps and all this cool stuff. But I mean, people don't like the gimmick when they live there, is what it seems like, which is silly because, like, I wish I lived by the Mothman statue and like I
Yeah.
could look at it every day. But I understand it gets old, and then we've kind of talked about before how, like, they've got the statue of this thing in the middle of town, and for them it's a reminder of a tragedy that happened in the 60s, rather than, oh, this is a cool, fun thing, so
Yeah.
um I could understand it. Well, so understandably so, if we're going to talk about West Virginian cryptids, we'll talk about the Mothman. Now, everybody here has already heard how I feel about the Mothman multiple times, and if you haven't, we've covered it now in two episodes at least of the podcast, just Mothman. So I'll link those as well in the description if you want to revisit them. But Aaron, what do you think about the Mothman?
I mean, it was not an owl. I'll start there. It's not an owl. And I
Sure.
don't believe it's a hoax. I don't believe this many people got together to quote unquote do a hoax. I just, no. I'm fond of the interdimensional spectral theory. There's plenty of anecdotes we could cite to kind of back that up.
Mhm.
maybe it's a mutated animal of some kind. There's all kinds of theories going back to the the TNT area and the contaminants that were present back in the 60s. Ultimately, I don't know, and I kind of like just landing in the middle and going, it could be any of these things. But
Sure.
yeah, if you're going to ask me which one I like the most, I love the interdimensional theory because it literally defied the laws of physics. Like,
Right.
what flies that fast?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
especially with the wingspan and whatnot, it doesn't biologically. It wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Makes no sense. Yeah.
Because he wasn't terribly tall. I mean, he was about 6 foot, but that's any male is for the most part. I mean, some women are even that. It's not like he was crazy tall or anything, but his wingspan wasn't that large either. He would still have to have had like a 30-foot wingspan in order to carry his body, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So that's just that alone doesn't really make much sense. And then. I will once again go on record by saying I'm definitely a Mothman purist. It never looked anything like a moth, and I'm so disappointed that everybody thinks even the statue looks like a moth, and I'm like, that's not what he looked like though.
Yeah.
But okay, they called him that as a fun little name because of the newspaper. Well, because somebody described it as looking like Batman, like the character because he looked like a man is what it was. It was just a humanoid, that was dark colored. Some people that see his face kind of describe a strange looking. They don't really describe. As a matter of fact, a lot of the eyewitness accounts that I've come across when they describe his face, they just describe it as weird. They don't really know how to describe it. But sometimes you get the Mothman where he doesn't have a neck. Sometimes he does, and so. It does change now. I've kind of talked about the discrepancies a lot and what it is. Obviously, I'm leaning more towards the ultra terrestrial side of things. But I don't want to make this episode too Mothman heavy because he gets enough attention.
It's inevitable. We're gonna talk about Mothman.
Well, you have to, right? You got to mention him, But like I said, everybody's already heard what I have to say, and if you want to hear more, then you can buy my book next year, hopefully in the spring, and then see the documentary in the fall of 2022. So
excited.
That's that's what that's going to be, but it'll be great. But yeah, the Mothman, if you don't know, he was sighted a lot in the West Virginia and Ohio areas in roughly the years 66 to 67. There have been sightings outside of that of the Mothman in the area. Actually, there's been sightings even very sporadically in the area to this day. But there was a flap of sightings that happened. And then, of course, people think that it's his fault that the bridge collapsed, the Silver Bridge connecting Ohio to West Virginia, and then alleged that the sightings kind of ended there. They didn't end there. They continued. The flap continued up through the spring. And then they eventually started to really dwindle down. It's just that everybody was so tied up with the bridge, happening that they didn't really talk about it anymore. So. But that's the gist of the Mothman. But I want to talk about some other things. What other cryptids do you know about, Aaron? Do you know?
Man, I was doing a bunch of reading, getting ready to talk tonight, and I'm quite fond of the. I hope I say this right. The Ogua.
Okay.
He's a big turtle, a very large turtle.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know. I read different accounts, but hundreds of pounds, like literally a dinosaur. This thing. Like a bear-sized turtle. And one of the first accounts I could find has it actually like eating a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. A couple of the versions I found, it has 2 heads. So I'm not sure what to make of that. But ultimately, it's just a huge turtle, the likes of which has not existed for, as far as we know, many eons on planet Earth. Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Ogua.
I am stealing that.
What do you mean you're stealing it? You're gonna steal this turtle? Is that?
The idea for this. Kids? The idea for this. Now, Ashers, would you say that this qualifies as a cryptid?
Yes, I would qualify this as a cryptid. Yes, okay. I would. I won't say anything yet. We won't talk about
all right. All right, my mic's going back up. Please continue.
Anyway, yes, this I would qualify as a cryptid because this is more of a prehistoric type of, this is kind of like a modern day dinosaur, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not really sighted nowadays, though, is it? This was more of a 17 to 1800s thing, I believe.
Yeah, sightings are really really old. So you could maybe argue that this was some kind of a relic dinosaur that happened to be there and has since died, because I couldn't find anything about modern sightings. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, still very cool that something like that, because then we've got other, something that's comparable that more people probably know about is the Beast of Busco, and it's also a giant turtle, and so that's
Hmm.
kind of a more popular one that, like I said, people have probably heard of. But very interesting. One thing I want to say before we kind of get into more details about some of the stuff is that West Virginia has a lot of folklore, and it's kind of considered a really magical place. A lot of people don't talk about it, and you'd be surprised considering it's definitely a Bible Belt area. But
Hmm.
they have a lot of unspoken spiritual rules and things like that. And turtles are definitely a very symbolistic spiritual kind of totem for a lot of different things. So I could see how maybe maybe some of these sightings were kind of mixed in with just a big ass snapping turtle, with some spiritual beliefs tied into
Yeah.
it somehow. But which snapping turtles are very mean, and they are very native to the area, and you can find some really big ones. But this one's like huge, huge. Like this was like a big guy. But that no, that's a really fun one. I like that one.
Thanks.
Pat, did you have one to share? Did you just decide to listen to us teach you tonight? Because we can.
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, all right. Pat's gonna listen. That's totally fine. Totally fine.
People
Um,
have heard me enough. I don't need to fucking be talking every 5 minutes.
well, another one that I think is of note is kind of a twofer. It is the white thing and the sheep squatch.
Sheep
Actually,
squatch.
sheep
Yes.
squatch. So the I'll start off with the sheep squatch. The sheep squatch. It's kind of hard to say. Is basically like a big. It's kind of more like a Bigfoot type creature, but it has horns.
Yeah.
Just in the way that they describe it. I mean, it's really bulky. It's anywhere it's upwards of like 10 feet tall. But it's got this white fur on it, which is why some people believe that it could be related to, or it could be a white thing. And the white things are well, I don't know if it's just one. I would say that it's probably multiple, because it seems to be a type of shapeshifter in a way. But they're typically described as being very dog-like and very vicious. But their signature is that they are white. What's interesting about the white thing and how I came across it was during my Mothman research, because there was a sighting of one in 1973 in the TNT area where the Mothman sightings were taking place. And
Hmm.
what they had said was that it was bipedal. It sounded like it looked more, I guess, dogman like, more canine like. However, it was chasing this family's car and it was floating during the whole time. So it had this
Hmm.
weird kind of supernatural type of vibe to it, which I guess it would, considering, like I said, it's probably a shapeshifter. So again, there's a lot of people that believe that sheep squatch could just be a white thing.
Because
And
the white things appear in a variety of like sizes and descriptions, from what I've read, if I'm not mistaken.
right, and it's a big. I mean, it's a big wide. You're not going to look up a white thing and see just one depiction of it because there's so many. But like I said, a lot of the stories tend to call them more canines. And like I said, I would probably consider that West Virginia's Dogman. Um,
Hmm.
but the signature, of course, is that they're white. They also have black things as well. Very similar stories that, again, these weird, strange creatures that seem to possess kind of supernatural powers, but again, are very vicious. And not because, we don't know, I guess, but we don't have any reports of them actually attacking people. But just kind of the air is very hostile. You don't want to run into one, that's for sure. But yeah, that's kind of where the sheep squatch, kind of falls. You would think maybe falls in a line there, but
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's just, I think, because with sheep squatch, they do seem to kind of possess supernatural abilities, like they appear and disappear, and things like that. So very interesting. So that's my other one. What do you think about the white things or the sheep squatch? What do you know about them? Have you heard about them?
Me? Sorry.
Yeah, you.
Oh. Sorry. Yeah, no, I was reading up on sheep squatch over the last couple days just because I knew we were going to talk about, West Virginia cryptids. And I feel like, this guy's pretty cool. He kind of keeps to himself. You don't, like you said, you don't really hear reports of him attacking people. Kind of makes me think of the Wampa from Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. Maybe a little friendlier, because a lot of the accounts I read describe it as having horns, but just being really big and covered in white fur. And yeah, it seems to tie into the stories of the white things that are these, sort of nondescript white animals that show up in different places and different shapes, but don't really fit within, the zoological kingdom as we understand them. So it's a fascinating concept, especially when you get into like the idea of shapeshifters and maybe things that don't stay in one shape all the time. That's a whole nother rabbit hole in and of itself, but it's a fascinating idea. Yeah.
Sure. No, absolutely. Well, what I'm going to continue to do here is just kind of go back and forth. And if you run out of cryptids, that's fine. I can take the lead. But do you have another one to share?
I took some notes on the Veggie Man because.
Ooh, Pat's excited. This is the whole reason for this episode.
Oh, good.
No, it's not. But yeah, please continue. 'Cause I had never heard of this one before, and it kind of conjured in my mind like images of the Flaming Carrot comic book character, which I'm sure no one here remembers, which is fine. But yeah, please enlighten me.
Well, he's fucking weird.
It's weird. It's fucking weird, yeah.
And it's one of the less correlated cases because I think there was only one sighting, right, Asher?
Yeah, only one, yeah.
Yeah, so, you can speculate all you want about cases where there's only one sighting and only one witness. But, as far as I'm aware, this guy stuck to his story. It never really changed. And basically, correct me if I'm wrong, Asher, but this guy saw a UFO come down on the other side of a hill from where he was hunting or fishing or something. This is the Cliff Notes version. Sure. And shortly thereafter, he encounters a bipedal creature that looks like it's made of plants that, like communicates with him telepathically. And it had flashing, I think it was red and yellow eyes.
Yeah, he had like oscillating eyes that were like changing rapidly between red and yellow. It was
and it had really big ears too, I think. I probably should have made more detailed notes, but it communicated telepathically and said, "You need not fear me. I wish to communicate. I come as a friend. We know of you all. I come in peace. I wish medical assistance. I need your help." Which, what the fuck? Fine. Okay.
Okay.
But then I guess the thing and I didn't even write down the witness's name, but I guess the creature grabs onto this guy and it's got like suction cup needle things and it starts sucking his blood.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And then takes off and then lets go of the guy and takes off
and dips.
And basically, yeah, that was it. Yeah. The Veggie Man's like, he's 7 foot tall is what the guy said. Again, he looks like very leafy and strange, and, so I guess green, brown, purple. I don't,
yeah,
and yeah, his hands, as he said, that at the ends of this thing's fingertips, that had really long fingers, at the end of the fingertips, it had suction cups with thorns coming out. And that's what he used to then pierce the guy's skin and I guess sucked his blood. And then he just was like, okay, bye, and kind of left. Now the guy said that he was really mesmerized by the by the rapid eye color, change, and he didn't feel fearful. But he said that the Veggie Man took off, and when he did, he heard the spaceship humming noise, and he didn't actually see the UFO take off, but he just, I guess, assumed that it did. So but that's it. And it happened, of course, during the weird time in West Virginia was 1968.
I was going to say 68, right? Yeah, yep. Right in there.
68 in Fairmont, West Virginia. So, and that was it. No, nobody's, I've never heard of anything. I've never read of anything that sounds even remotely like this thing. ever again. So I don't know what I don't know. I don't know about the Veggie Man.
I want there to be more sightings of this. Like, I want there to be something in
It's
folklore or
horrifying, right?
something, yeah, that correlates this thing's potential existence. Because you can do that with the Mothman, you can do that with werewolves, like, but I've never heard anything like this. I don't know
Anything
what the hell
like
this
this,
thing
right?
is.
And it's like, well, and that was one early episode back when Ivy was the co-host of the show. Ironically enough, but when it was myself and Ivy doing the show, we had talked about doing an episode on like cryptozoological plants, and on like plant urban legend and things like that. And that's when I had heard about it the first time. But there was nothing else like that. There's no other plants that move or anything like that. It was just mostly like studies on fungi, and because mushrooms are really strange, and Venus flytrap, because nobody really knows where it came from.
Yeah, there's a theory that the Venus flytrap came from space. John Keel wrote about that.
John Keel wrote about it. Says that the Venus flytrap came on a meteor from space. And we don't know. That's basically the same thing with mushrooms. They really don't make sense for our environment, but yet they grow here rapidly. But there's no evolutionary line to say where they started or where they came from. But it's a really good possibility that it started off as spores from a meteor that came here, and now they're here.
Yeah.
And they just happen to do really well. But anyway, the Vegetable Man was, would have been or the Veggie Man, Vegetable Man, whatever you want to call him. He would have been part of that list. So. But not as he never got big notoriety like this next one we're going to talk about, which is the Flatwoods Monster. So Braxy, I guess.
Good old Braxy.
They've named her. I love her. She's this was, and we did do a whole episode on Braxy as well. After I had the pleasure of visiting Braxton County for the first time. This happened in 1952, where a couple of young lads, young good boys, were playing outside, and they saw a flash of light in the sky crash into this big patch of land. They decided to go tell their mother about it. They told her. Another neighborhood boy plus a National Guardsman, I think, that they knew that they were friends with, and then their dog, they all went up to go explore what this was that crashed. And when they got up there was like a pulsating green light that was coming off of the general area, but it would get kind of dark, and so they flashed their flashlight, and that's when they saw it. This 10-foot tall, pure beauty and wonderment. I'm just kidding. I'm pretty sure they shit their pants and of course took off for dear life. But no, they saw what we now know as the Flatwoods Monster. A big, it kind of looks like a nun. The descriptions kind of looks like a nun, but it had these large eyes. It seemed to be wearing something, some type of armor, which kind of ended up looking like a dress of sorts.
Yeah.
But big glowing yellow eyes, big stick arms, and they all took off. What was weird about this case was that they all ended up getting very sick afterwards. And nobody died or anything, but they got extremely ill. Actually, I keep hearing this, and I keep not confirming it every time I talk about it. I think the dog did die. I'm pretty sure the dog died like a week later. Yeah. And there was some reports of like a mysterious goo left behind, but then the local police just said that it could have just been oil off of somebody's truck that was investigating the area or something. But this was kind of a one-off event, except it wasn't. 24 hours later, about 30 miles away, and I don't know if you've heard of this. Maybe you've heard me talk about it, probably. But it's nobody really talks about this. They had the Frametown incident. And with the Frametown incident, it was a husband and wife and their baby. They were driving down the road in Frametown, West Virginia. Again, it was about 30 miles away from where the Braxy incident happened.
Mm-hmm.
When they got, the car kind of started acting up, and so they pulled over to the side of the road. Husband's working on it, but then the family got hit with this overwhelmingly, sulfuric stench. Which
I
if you
was gonna
follow,
say, wasn't there a smell associated with it too, like a burning or a sulfur smell?
absolutely, and it's always
Yeah,
sulfur, right? I mean, it always is.
always.
Every
Yeah.
time in any of these weird cases, it's always sulfur. And then they looked off into the distance, kind of in the tree line, but they were really overwhelmed with the smell. I mean, the sulfur smell is stenchy. It's not pleasant,
No, it's
and
very pungent.
it's terrible. And so but they looked off into the distance and they saw this thing kind of emerge, and now the top half of it was very kind of reptilian like, but the bottom half looked more like, well, the bottom half of Braxy. It was just kind of this dress of armor. It was very metallic. The whole thing was very metallic. And it was very strange. So of course they get in the car and they get the fuck out of there. So this thing was sighted. I mean, was that the same creature? The thing is that this was the 1950s. It's not like when all those people that saw Braxy, it's not like they went home and like jumped on their Twitter or their Facebook and they're like, oh shit, just saw this thing in the woods, and then a lot of people saw it.
Yeah, you have independent witnesses in a time when information moved relatively slowly, at least compared to today, and that's
Exactly.
worth commenting on. Yeah,
Right. Nobody really knew nobody knew that incident had happened, and surely not just this random family 30 miles away. How would they know that this even happened? And they saw almost the same thing. There's a lot of speculation because again, the top half looked very different. When you look at the Flatwoods monster, I prefer to her as she.
I was going to say she's kind of one of the few cryptids we refer to as she
as
in
a
general.
she. Yeah. And that is right. So I like to think that she's a she. But she's very bulbous. The head is very round, which we presume. I mean, it looked like she had a hood on and things like that, but still the head itself was very rounded. Whereas like the Freetown monster, again, it was very skinny and reptilian coming out of something, what it looked like. So could it have been that it originally the first night was wearing some type of helmet? Or like
it's always looked to me like a suit or a robot or something. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, and very kind of very obelisk like. It was just strange, And but anyway,
I know when I was growing up, I used to read these. They were like horror cards, and they were like Topps trading cards. And I think on one side they would have like. I might be mixing this up, but I know that on one side maybe they had like horror icons like Freddy and Michael Myers and stuff like that, and on the other side sometimes they would have like stories of the impossible or whatever, and it would be
that's
about
cool.
alien abductions or Bigfoot sightings or the Hopkinsville goblins, shit like that, right? And that was kind of like my first exposure to a lot of these legends or reports or however you want to characterize them. And I know that like as a kid, I always had a tendency not to believe the one-off sightings that were never kind of repeated ever again. Kind of like what you talked about with Vegetable Man. Where like one person on one night saw some crazy shit and then nobody ever saw anything like that ever again. Because if you're looking at a larger meta narrative, where did it come from? Where did it go? And I think that like if you look at like aliens or like cryptids that like reappear, like you can kind of start to piece together a backstory, or we can kind of fill in more of the dots, fill in more of the blanks, connect the dots, however you want to say it. And when you have these just one-off incidences, like there's too many variables left for me to kind of come up with a narrative in my head, and I have a tendency just to dismiss it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's not to say that every incident that somebody has that isn't repeated 3 or 4 times isn't necessarily true. Like, how do you guys view those? Does it weigh on you at all if it's a creature that's never been seen or heard from again? Does that, even if the witness is credible, even if maybe there's multiple witnesses, but still just one event, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that it's something that's never been repeated as far as we know, does that weigh upon the believability of the story.
I mean, as far as like, so think about like, going back to like the Veggie Man, what's really interesting about this story and similar stories to it when you have these kind of one-off strange creatures is that, you know, he mentions that like, we know you, we know who you are, like basically, and a lot of these things do tend to mention how much they know us, which I think is very
Yeah.
pointed and very, very interesting. Does that mean that I think that the Veggie Man incident didn't happen, or did happen? Again, 1% possibility. If there's a 1% chance, I'll entertain the idea. I would like to believe that that did happen, just because it's so fucking weird that you kind of almost can't make it up.
I was gonna say, yeah, like if you're talking about a more widely known cryptid that is reported on a lot, like Nessie or Bigfoot or the Chupacabra, like I have some incentive to say that, oh yeah, I saw that too, because people know what that is. Like it carries
Right.
some weight to it. But if I go around telling people I saw a vegetable monster that sucked my blood with suction cups and hypnotized me with flashing lights, like there's no real incentive for me to make that up. I
Right.
don't think I'm gonna make money off that.
No,
So
no, not at all.
yeah.
Because who's this guy? I mean, Aaron doesn't even, you mentioned you don't even have the guy's name, nobody
I didn't
gives
even
a
write it
guy.
down.
Right, because nobody gives a shit about that guy.
Fuck that guy.
But so that just goes to show it's not like you become famous or, it's not like you get anything out of telling these crazy stories except for people thinking that you're crazy. And, stuff like that. I just kind of put it back into the unknown category. I have some things that I feel very strongly about that I, within myself, I know without a doubt exist. And then I have stories that I hear that within myself, I know without a doubt are bullshit. And then I've got just this weird, which a lot of things fall into, this weird unknown category of things that don't really, there's no evidence for or against, and there's no way to prove it or disprove it or,
Well,
anything like that.
Yeah, I feel like the if we're to believe the one-off encounters, like if the Vegetable Man thing happened, or if the Flatwood Monster story happened, I mean, they almost have to be like some kind of dimensional hopping entities.
Which would make sense,
right?
They
Well,
come here
Yeah.
once.
that's kind of like the only way, because there's not necessarily like a UFO sighting that correlates with it, right? I mean, they just kind of like,
Well, both of them did have UFO sightings
with the
involved.
Vegetable Man.
Yeah, that's what he said. He saw this UFO
Yeah.
crash, and also with the Flatwoods Monster, they saw a flashing thing fall from the sky.
I need to stop looking at porn while you guys are talking, because I'm missing fucking half of this shit.
It's funny because it's true.
Well, it depends what kind of porn. I mean, you might be right where you need to be. It just depends.
Blame
Vegetable
cute
man
BJ
porn.
Princess Kimberly. It's all her fault.
He's over there reading. He's over there reading "Mounting the Mothman" right now.
I'm not reading anything except the fucking tags. No, I guess, yeah. Okay, well then, there's. I mean, I guess you try to explain this stuff in terms that still make sense to you, and you keep trying to bring it back to like a language that you understand, right? You keep trying to like take this unmanageable, like bigger than your head can possibly comprehend reality, and you keep trying to squeeze it into a jar that you can hold, right? So we keep trying to say like, oh, like, well, they're aliens, but there's only so many different alien species, because if there was an infinite amount of them, and we're just one of 5 billion, and at any point in time one of their random spaceships could land and something could walk out that there hasn't even been one story of yet. We're like, that's almost like too big and too unbelievable to comprehend. We like the idea that there's like recurring races of aliens, right? Like, oh, they all look like this, oh, they're the Greys, like, that seems the most believable, because it's so frequent. The only reason it's so frequent is just because other people are saying it, it's the repetition that breeds familiarity, and we're trying to impart familiarity on something that is very unfamiliar, that is completely fucking alien to us. And it's these one-off encounters that like I said, I just kind of instinctually dismissed. But the whole nature of what these conversations that we have is to embrace these stories that are kind of not familiar to us, that are they're crazy stories of the unknown, right? And it almost seems like there's more to be gained at this point in the conversation in focusing on these one-offs instead of just retreading the same ground over and over again. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, if I had to compare, so let's say I'm comparing the Flatwoods Monster and the Vegetable Man, and like which one I think probably holds more credibility, it would definitely be the Flatwoods Monster because there were multiple witnesses to the
Right.
one incident, and then within a 24-hour period, there was another very similar incident. I mean, there were corroborating stories that made sense, but
Yeah.
that technically means that it wasn't just a weird one-off incident, was it? It was technically two. It just happened over the course of a 24-hour period. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I don't necessarily believe the Veggie Man. But if you're talking about these weird interdimensional creatures, I have another theory. And a lot of people that claim to come into contact with aliens or see aliens or whatever, obviously we know, what do they see? The grays, right? That's when you think of an alien, that's what you
Yeah.
think of, is the grays. And maybe they're not gray, maybe they're green, but you still think of the same facial structure and things like that. But my theory is that it's possible that these interdimensional, or I prefer the term ultra terrestrial, I'm a big Keelian, that these things can change themselves to appear to us in a way that makes sense and that's familiar, but that also still walks the line of fringe, so that that you saw something without actually seeing what they look like. And once grays became mainstream, which didn't happen until I think it was like the 1940s, is when grays became like a big, like an actual, oh, this is what I saw. But I think that once they became mainstream, then that's how they started presenting themselves to us, because it was easier to bite off and chew, rather than seeing something like the Frametown monster. I mean, look up the Frametown monster. It's horrifying looking. It's fucking scary. Pull out your phones and while you're listening to this, Google a picture of that fucker. It's scary.
It is very
Um,
scary. I looked it up while you were talking about it.
yeah,
It's not pleasant to look
no,
at.
you wouldn't. Right, you would not want to see that at all. And not to mention, again, nobody's ever talked about this thing before, so maybe that thing has shown up before. It's just because it possesses different um capabilities than we do. Maybe it's presented itself as a gray. It could, why couldn't it?
The
You know,
Frametown monster.
it's the Frametown incident is what it's dubbed, but
Frame,
that's
like frame.
frame, like picture frame, Frametown, all one word. Frametown monster. It's scary looking, and I wouldn't want to see that. The Vegetable Man. That sounds fucking horrifying.
Yeah, I don't want to meet that thing. Sheep squatch, like I feel like a sheep squatch sighting would not be a bad thing, but I'm good on these other guys.
Right. No, thank you. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
right. I mean, that's for sure. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to run into a sheep squatch, and it's fuzzy, so you could. I mean, it's probably more pleasant to pet. I will pet all of them. That's for sure. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a vegetable man or a sheep
Even
squatch.
veggie man? Okay.
I will pet you. Yes, that's. This is my open invitation for all the beings out there. Come over here, get pets. But
Even the
you know,
Ogwa.
but Aaron, what do you think? What do you think about these one-off kind of? What's your take on it?
I mean, it's tough because you could look at it either way. You could say, yeah, this is something that someone hallucinated, or this was like, a case of small mass hysteria. I guess you could apply that to the Flatwoods monster if you wanted to. But it's again, you said this earlier, Asher. The details are so weird. Like, why make that up?
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be easier to say, oh, I saw a flying saucer over that hill there, and that's
And leave it at that, right?
yeah, more likely to be believed, or at least less likely to be ridiculed. I don't know. I go back and forth on them. I go back and forth for thinking that like, there's nothing to this because it was a one-off. To maybe there really has to be something to be. Sorry, maybe there really has to be something to this because it's a one-off. It's hard to come down on that one.
Sure. And and it can be difficult because me personally, I I have to separate myself from my job. This is my job, and I think that a lot of people tend to forget that especially when you listen to the show and maybe you don't follow all the other things that I do, or I'm not always forthcoming with all of the things that I do because I'm putting them into documentary and book form. But I think that a lot of people do tend to forget that this is my job. And so, therefore, yes, I have my personal opinions about things. But as an investigator, and I say this, and I try to make it clear, it's not my job to tell somebody that what they experienced did not happen. Like, that is the last thing that I would want to do. Not only would it ruin the trust that people would have in me and sharing their experiences with me, but I've had some weird shit happen that I can't explain. So I know how it is. And it's simply my job to take these things, and assume that they're real, and then try to piece them in and see how they fit, because, these crazy stories, who knows? One of them might be the missing link to this, or rather, I call it more, it's not exactly a link, it's not linear. I like to refer to it more as a puzzle, right? So
yeah, it's a piece.
It's right, a piece of the bigger picture. And so, at the end of the day, no matter how strange your experience was, or how small that you might think it might have been, it might be huge. It might be groundbreaking. It might be the one thing that tips us over from fringe science into actual science, and that's my goal at the end of the day. And so, but again, of course, I have personal opinions about things. Absolutely, I do. But as an investigator, I separate that part of myself in order to entertain the idea of these things. So that's what I do. Well, these people said that they saw a 10-foot, creature, possibly alien, because it had a spaceship and it had these glowing yellow eyes. What could it have been? Well, first of all, let's rule everything out, scientifically. Some people say that the Flatwoods monster could have been an owl, and that's what they saw. I don't think so.
It's not an owl.
I don't think so. Now, owls do this really threatening move where they stick their butts up in the air, and then they kind of stick their face down, and they look at you and make these weird noises, and they do got big scary eyes. And, maybe if it was sitting on a tree branch that also happened to look like metallic armor, a metallic armored dress, okay, yeah, sure.
Metallic armored tree branch, sure.
Right, sure, because
that smelled like
arms,
sulfur.
Right, that smells like sulfur, sure. But a lot of things would have to really come into place for it to have been an owl, and things like that. So to me, the impossible seems more likely than the possible.
Yeah, I was going to say, at a certain point, something we don't understand makes more sense than trying to fit it into something we do understand. Yeah,
sure. And so, I mean, that's a really good that was a really good point, Pat. That was a really good talking piece you had there.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Very insightful.
I'm gonna go away now.
Oh.
I mean, and you said something I really like, Asher, because if you take the whole scope of all this strange stuff, from ghosts to cryptids to aliens, and if even one case is unexplainable, it changes everything we know about the nature of reality. And maybe I'm snowballing too much with that, but it really broadens your perspective for me at the end of the day, looking at all this stuff and going, I can't explain this. I can't fit this inside of what we understand about reality.
Sure.
So
absolutely. Yeah. And I try to, which I know nobody's going to do it, but I try to tell people, just follow physics for a year. And physics is the science of how the whole world works around us. Follow physics for a year and see how much it changes in that year time span. It's like every single week there's a new scientific breakthrough that changes the way that we look at the world and know everything and how we experience life. And it's true. It's just that most people don't understand those big concepts. They just understand that they live and they go to work and they come home and they got families, and they know those little, those smaller concepts, but they're not looking at like the big picture. But the fact of the matter is the way that we understand the way that the world works, it changes so often that it's just easier to just say that we really don't know how any of this works. We really have no idea. And that's it. At the end of the day, we're in the dark. And so once you start kind of picking apart actual science, and I hear that a lot, well, you can't say these things exist, there's no scientific evidence. And it's like, just look at science as a whole and see how we operate and see how the real science works. And then you understand that nothing is impossible, because we've defied, we've defied possibilities before, and we've created things out of impossibilities. So therefore, again, nothing's impossible. But I digress. I've got one more that I want to talk about just because it's a big one. And then I don't know if you had another one that you wanted to share before I got to it, but I'll give you the floor if you do.
No, I had the Ogwa, the Veggie Man, and the Sheep Squatch. I
Sure.
think we covered them pretty well. I knew we'd talk about Mothman. I knew we'd talk about Braxy.
Sure.
I did write Grafton Monster down here in the margins, so that's a fun one.
Well, so that was the one I was going to bring up was the
Yeah.
grafted monster. So it's a popular one. And I'll kind of mention West Virginian cryptids and how they got so popular after we talk about this one. But the grafted monster is very strange. I used to think that it was more like again like another type of Sasquatch. But it's not. It's it's really not.
Kind of its own
Um,
thing, yeah.
yeah, it's a big guy. Typically he's like gray colored, right? And then it doesn't have fur. It has like skin. And like typically it's like
Mm-hmm.
greasy or slicked skin or something, but he's big and bulky and he doesn't seem to have a head. Kind of, I guess, kind of like how people describe them. Well, no, because the Mothman's got a head, he just doesn't have a neck. This thing's just like a torso, and the face is like kind of
Yeah.
more inside of the torso. Which if you go back and I can't think of what they're called right now. This isn't the only instance of a giant bulky creature having a face inside of its chest and stomach area. There are other examples of this dating back through different cultures and different, just way different, multiple instances of something like this kind of existing. But the Grafton monster, I think they allegedly caught thermal video of this thing on Mountain Monsters, which I don't recommend Mountain Monsters, but I know a lot of people watch it. That's fine. But allegedly they caught thermal footage of this thing, and
I did hear about this, yeah.
what they said was that it was more of a Sasquatch, but it just kind of tucks its head down so it looks like it's headless, but it's not really headless. It just kind of tucks the chin down into the chest, and
Hmm.
I don't know why, but that's what he does. And maybe he's like folding laundry while he's out there. He's like holding it with his chin, and he's
It's just carrying too many things. He's not really that big and bulky. He's just carrying a bunch of shit.
yeah, it could be. But yeah, the Grafton monster. I mean, obviously, it's was cited a lot around Grafton, West Virginia. A lot of these things do seem to have their kind of little home, but that's pretty much it. There was a string of sightings of it. Again, of course, I bet you can't guess when. It was the 1960s.
Was it the 60s? Could it be the 60s, maybe?
Well, yeah, of course it was. I mean, come on. And were there sulfur smells? I'm sure there was,
Probably.
around this thing. But yeah, I mean that's the gist of the grafted monster. It's not anything, people don't really see it much nowadays. But I mentioned kind of in the beginning of this episode how West Virginia is very magical. And you'll get that a lot when you're around the mountains. But you get that a lot, because it's very Appalachian.
I think it's
Appalachia.
Oh man,
Appalachia.
Danner of Conjure Dust Designs explained this to me, and I'm suddenly drawing a blank.
Oh no! Yeah, we need to.
Appalachian?
Appalachian. Is it Appalachian or Appalachian?
Appalachian.
It was something he gave us this cool little
sounds right.
rhyme. It was something like, if you say Appalachia, we'll throw an apple at you, something like that. I'm probably getting it wrong.
That's adorable.
I'm probably getting it wrong, but it was something like that.
He's gonna be so mad. I'm gonna ask him after the show.
Yeah.
No, Danner's a great guy. Love that guy.
Cool dude.
But anyway, but yeah, specifically through I'm gonna say Appalachias. I'm sticking to Appalachia. So through the Appalachias, it's a very magical place, because a lot of people believe that mountains hold, energies and things like that. And so on top of cryptids and aliens and supernatural beings, you've also got very heavy belief in like the Fae and things like that. So a lot of people have different one of the most common things that I get, to be honest with you, as far as sightings go, are just these disembodied footsteps in the woods. And
Hmm.
I think our buddy Mothman 76 actually had a very similar experience in the woods with just disembodied footsteps. And they're running at you, and then you turn around and there's nothing there. However, you definitely get the sense of dread. I mean, I would if I had footsteps running towards me, period. But
Yeah, that's not a pleasant thing to hear. Like,
no,
even if you could see it.
right? Yeah, no, thank you. But that is a heavily reported thing that I get. And then of course, you've got things like brownies, which are little, house elves basically, and halflings are a really big thing there. Just they've got all kinds of stuff. But a lot of this kind of exploded into popularity. For one, the Mothman thing exploded into popularity when we had the Richard Gere movie, right? Which is personally, I'm not a fan.
I was gonna say, I know you're not the biggest proponent.
I'm so against it. When I've watched this movie, I've watched it probably about 3 times now, and do you see the Mothman in it?
Not really, no. I mean, you see sketches that people have drawn of what they saw, and then you see little flashes, kind of between frames, but no, you don't.
I thought there was like a shot of like when the bridge was collapsing where like you could see the moth like in the background.
So as far as I'm aware, there's a shot where one of the suspension wires is coming down, and like the angle that they because it's clearly like CG, but they animated it to where it's hitting the camera lens, and it blacks out the screen. And there's like a half a second frame where you see some kind of a face or something. I don't. You never get a good look at anything, though. No.
Can I weigh in on this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm probably wrong.
No, you know what? I've heard a lot of people shit on this movie, and I'm I'm not here to debate how historically accurate it is, and that's said using big fucking air quotes. But the way I look at it is like, it's like hating on the Twilight movies because they're not an accurate representation of vampires. It's like, I guess, yeah, you're right. But at the same time, if it gets chicks into vampires and werewolves, then that's kind of cool, right? And I feel the same thing about the Mothman movie is like, well, I don't know about you, but that's how I first heard about it. And I think there's a lot of people that first heard about it because of that stupid fucking movie. And then they did research on their own and they realized that there's more to the story than that, and yada, yada, yada. And if we went back and like wiped that movie out of history, it would probably do more harm than good. So, I'm not a huge fan of the movie. Richard Gere isn't my cousin. I'm not getting paid to fucking say this. But
but if he wants to pay us, he can.
Exactly. Well, you can't pay me because I don't draw any income from this show.
Right, that's right.
I don't pay child support and coming after fucking this shit. But I don't hate on it. I think it serves its purpose. You know what I mean? And I think when people get too fucking upset about it, it's like, dude, it's like the vampires playing baseball.
Right.
Is that the worst thing in the world?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You're right. Oh, uh-oh. We lost somebody. I think
there is definitely a lag with my mic, isn't there?
Yeah. I'm still here, as far as I can tell.
Mothman got angry with him and kicked him out.
I'll show this son of a bitch.
Right. Fuck that movie. No, I'll say, before Pat got offed by he got 411 by the Mothman. I agree with what he was saying about the whole thing. It's it did get people talking about it, and I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum, that's for sure. But realistically, and I think that's the point that's missed about it a lot, is that it wasn't about the Mothman. It was about John Keel.
Yeah. But it was more a story about a guy coping with loss, the film.
Right.
Than it was an accurate depiction of a cryptozoological incident. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And they could have done it. Obviously, they could have done it so much better because it's, reading the Mothman prophecies, and you get to realize how personal this case was to Keel. And you see it in his other works and I think I mentioned it on, when I did the Paranormal Roundtable episode, we talked about how, obviously Keel did the Mothman prophecies. He was there. He was living, with these people and amongst these people and knew all
in
about
real
it.
time. Yeah.
And so But he had another book called like Strange Creatures from Space and Time or something like that.
Yes, I have that one. Good book.
Yeah, it's a very good book, but like if you go through it, it is really good. He'll have like a whole chapter on like different Sasquatches, right? And then I'll have a whole chapter on like different flying, creatures and things like that. But then he has entire chapters dedicated, one to the Mothman and one to Injured Cold. And so it really shows how personal this was to him. Like it really was its own thing. But like I said, that's the point's kind of missed. Again, it's supposed to be about Keel, and I don't expect it to be a shot for shot about his life. But a lot of people watch it because they want to hear about the Mothman. We need a really good Mothman movie.
And there isn't one, I don't think. There is one. There's one called Mothman. I think it stars Jewel State, if I'm not mistaken.
What?
From Firefly? Yeah, I'm going to have to look this up now.
This is a thing.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's just called Mothman. It came out in 2010. IMDb has it rated at like a 3.4 out of 10. But yeah, it's starring Jewel State.
Wow.
And some other people.
But it still wasn't good.
Apparently not. No. I've never seen it. It doesn't seem to be streaming on. Oh, is it on Amazon Prime Video? I know what I'm doing tonight.
Listen.
But
right.
But apparently it wasn't very good. I think it's supposed to be a horror movie. But yeah, there's not like a really good film about this phenomena or about this concept. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, there's not. And I mean, okay, whatever. So.
Maybe someday. Maybe you'll make it.
Maybe I will. We'll see. It needs to happen. There's no good Mothman representation out there, and that's disappointing. But the reason, so again, going back to why this got popular anyway, not just that. Another big thing, if you go to like the Mothman Museum and even the Flatwoods Monster Museum, which you can go to, the Flatwoods Monster now also contains a Bigfoot museum right on the same street. So definitely go if you can.
So cool.
But the reason why I bring it up is because it got really, really big. West Virginia and its monsters got really, really big because of a little game called Fallout 76.
I was hoping you would mention that. I had a footnote about that too.
I could not.
You can see most of these monsters in Fallout 76.
You can. And have you played it? I've not played it.
I have played it.
Is it good? I mean,
it's good. I was a big fan of Fallout 4. And whenever I play Fallout 76, I just find myself shutting it down and then booting up Fallout 4 again. But it's a good game. Like all the same mechanics are there if you like the Fallout franchise. But being able to go and, okay, the Mothman's over here, the Flatwoods monster is over here, the Grafton monster's over here, the Sheep Squatch is over here. Like you can make your own time out of just going around and trying to find all these guys.
Sure. So if you're really into that, then it makes sense to play something that, because we don't have a lot of good video games representing cryptids. And that's I'm a little suspicious right now. So I think because Pat says that he's back, but like he could have just been 411'd by the Mothman, and now it's actually the Vegetable Man in Pat's place.
I was gonna say we don't know it's him.
Yeah, we don't. We're not.
Oh
sure.
no, it's me.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a real big fan of Fallout 76. I played the shit out of that.
We just started talking about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I came back and I heard you guys talking about it. I took it off my PS4 just because of storage issues. I started doing the Marvel Avengers game, and my kid has to keep. I share a PS4 with my kid because it's not. I'm not one of those people where everyone's got their own fucking gaming system in this house. So like between like Fall Guys, which he plays, and then Fortnite, and those updates that just kind of keep compounding and like getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's what I hate about modern day games. Yeah.
Remember when games got made and you bought them and that was it?
Right.
Oh my god. Yeah. So like, I mean, I think the PS4 right now has Fortnite, Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk 2077, and then like that's, I don't know, maybe one or two other games, Tony Hawk 1 and 2, like, and that's it. And whenever we beat something, it's like, all right, take it off, and now we got to put something else on here
so we can get something else, right?
Yeah. And meanwhile, this Fortnite build keeps getting fucking bigger and bigger and bigger.
and
with
when it's just gonna be all
like
Fortnite.
no, seriously, within a year, and I'm sure something will happen before then. They'll just delete it and start a new one or something. But like, if they keep adding on to that game, it's going to take up the whole fucking PS4. And Fallout 76 was kind of one of those things too, where like, it just kind of kept getting bigger, and I wasn't really using the online stuff, the multiplayer stuff. I was just kind of like doing it solo, which I like the Fallout universe enough anyway, you know. But yeah, it was definitely cool to see them do the cryptid stuff. I ran into Mothman a lot because that was one of the storylines, is like the cult of him. But I don't think I ever ran into any of the other monsters or cryptids.
Wow. Well, we were talking about what was in there. There was Mothman and the Flatwoods Monster, and the Shrapnel
Monsters in there.
Sheep Squatch was in there.
Yeah.
Was there Vegetable Man? Did Veggie Man make it in?
I can't remember, but I'm gonna look it up now.
Well, also the Flatwoods Monster was the direct inspiration to the what were the one monsters in Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda. Oh my god.
Was it Majora's Mask or was it Ocarina of Time? I could be wrong here.
I think they might have been in both. I don't remember.
They may have been, yeah.
Because they were the same platform. I mean, they were the same, not development, but you know what I mean, the same base.
Yeah, same generation. They were pretty much back to back.
Right. Pretty much, I mean, not the same game quite, but it was in there.
God, no. I played Majora's Mask like once, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I don't think
it was
a
weird game.
Yeah, that kind of gameplay I'm not down, where I got to sit down with like a pen and paper and write down what happens at what time.
I got really lucky. I have this weird anecdote where like every single Legend of Zelda game that I've ever owned, somebody's given to me, and I don't know how I get, especially now that they're worth money and I've got them, and I've got like multiple different copies of Ocarina of Time somehow. But anyway, the first one I played was Ocarina of Time, and when I told somebody at school that I was playing it, he had a walkthrough for it, and he gave that to me, and then he also gave me a copy of Majora's Mask with the walkthrough. And I would not have ever made that game had I not had a guide sitting there. But I agree, I'm not a big fan of having to read my way through a game.
Yeah. It kind of took the roguelike game structure and applied it to Zelda, which is typically more start to finish linear. You know, it was a weird format.
It was very, I mean, of course I tried it on my own before I cracked open the book, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a video game walkthrough. I never had Nintendo Power or anything like that growing up. So because we were poor, so you didn't get those extras. But I was so thankful that was the first time I was ever introduced to it, because I needed it. Otherwise I was going to break that fucking game in half. I was so mad. But anyway, but no, the West Virginian cryptids, yeah, they really got, I mean, that's when people just kind of started to realize, wow, West Virginia is really fucking weird, isn't it? And
it's a weird place. Yeah.
It is. It's a very strange, I mean, it's just, Pat, have you ever been there?
No.
You never have? It's just, even the air about it is just different. Like, without seeing the signs or anything like that, you know when you're in West Virginia, because everything just shifts and it's like you're on a different plane of existence, and I've traveled other places before, and it's not quite like it is when you go to West Virginia. It's just strange. Now, I guess the people that live there probably, they don't notice the difference. I don't know. But it's just a very different place. And we've talked about these little pockets of high strangeness areas, and this is it's definitely one of them. I'm glad that I live so close, and I'm trying to kind of investigate the place and see what it's about. Not to say that other places don't have weird places, because they do. Being in Ohio, we're very weird too. But everybody's got something in your respective areas, states, countries, wherever it is you're listening to the show at. But West Virginia is definitely very unique, and
it's got a high concentration of it for sure.
It does. And for me personally, and like, that's another thing, there's other things about it that people don't know. One of the SETI satellites is in West Virginia. Did you know that? There's a whole town where there's no radio waves exist, because of the SETI satellite there. And it's just like, well, I guess that would be a really good place to put it now, wouldn't it? But and just other things, we had we ended up creating a theory on one of the weekends that we were there investigating, and it was about Pizza Hut. because they had a lot of Pizza Huts there in West Virginia, and that's weird because like you don't really have like sit down Pizza Huts anymore, but they did. So we just thought that like maybe kind of like the mattress factory conspiracy, there's like mattress factories on every corner and they like do like, I don't know, human trafficking and money laundering and whatever. And that's what they're just a front for it. Maybe that's what Pizza Hut is in West Virginia.
Oh, I hadn't heard this one, but okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I
mean, we totally made it up, but it's actually 100% real.
Oh,
and,
okay. Yeah.
But there's a lot of sit down Pizza Huts in West Virginia. You don't see that shit everywhere anymore,
No. We did notice a couple when we were driving through. Yeah.
I bet you did. There's so many, right? And then we had another one too, and it's that. Hold on. Oh, I'll share this one real quick. It's that, and this is not just West Virginia. This is everywhere. KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, the chain fast food chicken place, is always hiring. Always. So every time you pass a KFC now, look in the window. You'll see a big hiring sign. Now hiring. And sure, fast food places hire a lot, but you don't always see those. And they're big. They're cover the whole window. Now hiring. You're going to see it a lot more right now because I know a lot of these fast food places are being fucked, as they should be, because they're not paying people.
There's pretty significant labor shortage. Yeah.
Sure. We won't get into that. Those, they should pay people more. But
yeah. Whole other thing.
Right.
Right there with you, but whole other thing.
Right. Once they catch up and they start paying people a semi-livable wage, then start looking at KFCs because they're always looking for people. It's so weird. It's so weird.
Be looking for that now.
The one with the secret herbs and spices is people.
That explains everything. Explains a lot of things. But yeah. Again, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Again, there's no basis behind this. It's just stuff that we noticed while we're driving through West Virginia because there's really nothing else to do but to think about shit. So.
But to look at the mountains and think.
Look at the mountains. You're always like, oh my God, look at the mountains. And then like you'll hit a patch and you'll be like, oh, that's so pretty. But then like there's a lot of nothing in between. So.
Yeah. Just trees.
It's pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. Visit it, that's for sure. Go see all the weirdness. Go, take part in the fun and the gimmicks and stuff like that because it's got a lot to offer. It's got a lot of rich history to it. I tell people this all the time. Oh, Pat's leaving and coming and going again.
Oh, we lose him again? Bummer.
I don't know I came back.
No, I'm here, but we should. So, like I said, I had moved my computer to a different location in the house.
Yeah, Aaron, do you want to tell people where they can find you at? And
yeah, sure. I'm on Instagram as hey_strangeness, and I got a link tree on there that takes you to our podcast on Spotify and Apple, and we're on YouTube, but I don't really do much on there. I just kind of upload extra stuff that we take from time to time. But yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, Aaron does it with his wife, Sarah, which is also very pleasant. I don't know if she's listening, but hi.
She's in the background. Yeah, she said hi.
she's the quiet one, but she does, come out more on the show, which is great. But no, they're very new to discussing some of these things. Like I said, some of the humor is great. It's
thanks.
No, I really like it. It's very akin to the show, very silly, but also very good information. So if you guys like what you hear over there, definitely go show them some love and encourage them. I know what it's like being a new creator starting out, right? I mean, we all got to start somewhere. So it was definitely good to have you on.
Thank
Pat,
you. So fun to be here.
Yeah, Pat, do you have any closing remarks, or are you just gonna?
No, Aaron. Thanks for coming.
Disappear in the background.
Thanks for having me. Always good to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. All right. Well, guys, with that being said, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.